Hey there, I'm Alan N.K. I'm a teacher and an author, and if you want to find out more about me, you can go to my website, alannk.com. That's ALANNKAY.com. Or you can go to my Facebook page called The History Cart, and I post all kinds of great little stories and anecdotes, including this story here. But let's go ahead right now and get to the reason why you're listening. This great story that I'm about to tell you, that I like to call A Founding Fathers Father's Day. Hey dads, do you have a story like mine? You love your son. His birth was one of the greatest and most profound moments of your life. When he was little, you spent all your time with him. During summer vacations, you went everywhere together. You coached his hockey or baseball or football team. You helped him in school. As he got older, you tried to protect him from the dangers of the adult world. You and your wife helped him go off to college. And you were, or you will be, intensely proud of him as he begins his career as an adult. Maybe thinking of this brings you close to tears. Are you also like me and you're looking forward to spending Father's Day with your children? Opening presents or grilling a hearty steak or even on the golf course. Father's Day is a day to celebrate everything you sacrificed and all you accomplished as a dad, and maybe even as a friend. But imagine for just 1 minute that you would not be celebrating because your story had a horrific twist. Imagine if after everything you did for your son, he turned on you. He embarrassed you, humiliated you. How would you deal with that? Unbelievably, you don't have to look very far for a story to give you pause on this Father's Day. None other than founding father Benjamin Franklin himself lived that story. And the agony of his personal tragedy changed America and the world forever. There was perhaps no man more respected during his lifetime, and no man more admired today than Benjamin Franklin. He was the scientist who reached for the lightning and dared challenge the heavens. He was the inventor of bifocals and swim fins, and countless other inventions. He was the favorite son of Philadelphia, who established a fire department, ran the post office, a printing press, and even developed her streetlights. It was he and his associate John Adams who were the ones who asked Thomas Jefferson to write that Declaration of Independence we celebrate every July 4th. And at the conclusion of the American Revolution, it was Benjamin Franklin who was the chief and, for most of the time, only negotiator with the British for the Treaty of Paris to end the American Revolution. But what do you know of Benjamin Franklin the father? Did you know he had children? Did you know that one of them was a son named William? Did you know that, like you, Ben spent countless hours with his son William during his childhood? Indeed, William was right there holding the kite with Benjamin during the most famous scientific experiment in American history. And did you know that Ben got William his first job? Daddy traveled with William to London and helped him pass the bar exam there. Did you know he helped launch William's career with his most prestigious job ever, the governorship of New Jersey? And did you know that his son William was the last governor in the colonies to resign his position after the revolt had already started? Well, it sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Benjamin Franklin sounds a lot like you and the relationship you have with your own son. Well, wait a minute, because here comes the horrible twist. William not only did a superb job in his new career, he was determined to make his father proud and be a successful royal governor. Are you picking up on it yet? Yeah, that's right. I said royal governor. While Father Ben was working with Thomas Jefferson and John Adams on declaring independence in 1776, his son William was adamant in publicly announcing his loyalty to the king. And as the war grew more desperate, William went on to not only profess his loyalty to the king, but to actively work with British troops to defeat the rebellion. He organized other loyalists. He started conspiracies and plots, and even attempted to organize his own loyalist army that would be used against George Washington's. And when that plot failed and the rebels went on to win the war, what did William do? He represented the cause of the loyalists, traveled to London to petition the king for aid. Ironically, incredibly, unbelievably, while William was in London meeting with the king to represent one side of the war, the losers, his father Ben was in Paris representing the winners. Can you even begin to imagine the pain of Benjamin Franklin? He was a father who had given everything to his son. He was a father who had dedicated his life to making sure that his son William would succeed in his own right. And how did William repay his father's dedication? By turning traitor to everything Benjamin had ever believed in and worked for. Indeed, the way Benjamin himself said it in a letter to his son after the war, his last letter, by the way, was, and I'm quoting here, "Nothing has ever hurt me so much and affected me with such keen sensibilities as to find myself deserted in my old age by my only son." Can any of us understand the total sense of betrayal Benjamin Franklin was feeling at the end of the Revolution? He had been betrayed by his only remaining son. He was hurt, angry, he was sick, and he was getting old. And if there was one last thing he would do in Paris, it was to make absolutely sure that his son and the loyalists he led would receive nothing. Now, it wasn't easy. England was determined to help the loyalists. After all, how would the rest of this mighty empire see the King of England if these people who had remained loyal to him, who lost everything in that war to the rebels, and who were now exiles in other parts of the empire, received nothing? If the British government could not protect these loyalists, then the empire itself could come crumbling down. Yet, despite these major obstacles, Benjamin Franklin succeeded as he always did. The loyalists left the new United States. The superpower known as the British Empire was forced to scatter them throughout their remaining colonies, with a huge majority of them going to Canada, where, by the way, a lot of their descendants still live to this very day. Was this Benjamin Franklin's revenge for his son's betrayal? Or the practical workings of an American diplomat? You decide. Now, we could go on to discuss the massive implications the Treaty of Paris would have on the Loyalists and on the world. We could discuss the politics, the history, the bitter relations between Canada and the new United States that would continue on to the present day. By the way, the United States and Canada would go on to fight two more wars, one in 1812 and another in 1838. But on this Father's Day, we are much more interested in what happened to Ben and his son. Did Ben ever forgive his son, or even see him again? As a father myself, Ben's story has captivated me. I spent 10 years working on a historical novel based on their relationship, which I titled Neither King Nor Country. It provides much of the resources for our story today. I was thunderstruck by the tragedy of Ben's story. Here was one of the most brilliant men ever in American and even world history. We owe so much to this great man, and to see such personal suffering in him is staggering. Did they ever make amends? Did they ever forgive each other? There is no evidence beyond what must have been in their own hearts, but every father and son can imagine the pain they both were feeling. After the war, after the betrayal, Ben and William met one last time in 1785. Ben was returning home from Paris, and he had stopped in England to see his son. The meeting did not go well. How could it? Ben was already in intense physical pain. He had gout, kidney stones. He was nearly paralyzed on his left side. Was there any malady left that Benjamin Franklin did not have? If it wasn't for his grandson, William Temple Franklin, firmly placing his hand on his grandfather's back, the old man would have fallen over in a heartbeat. Standing on that ship, waiting to see his son, he still must have realized how lucky he was to be nearing his 80th birthday. To still be alive and have seen so much in his life, the Revolution, the Indian Wars before that, the friendships he had made with such great men like Washington and Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin had literally seen empires tremble and countries be born. But how could any of that matter now? Was he actually nervous to see his son? Benjamin Franklin, the man who stood up to kings, who met with the greatest lords and ladies of Europe, who had schooled Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, and even, at times, George Washington himself. I wonder if he was weak in the knees. He still had not come to terms with William's betrayal. That was clear. He had disowned him, repudiated him, both publicly and privately, and was even planning on making the boy pay for every debt his father ever encumbered for him, all the way back to his school days. Not a single loyalist, starting with his son, would get anything from this war. Franklin had made sure of that. Was it pure revenge? Did his heart want to forgive William, but his politics could not? After all, he had argued in Paris that no loyalist should get any compensation from the Americans. It was logical, scientific, and Benjamin Franklin was the most logical scientific man in America, if not the world. Everything he had ever done, every decision he had ever made, was based on rational thought and behavior. He had not been one of the mob. He had never tarred and feathered anyone. He abhorred that. His decision to leave the empire had been made slowly, rationally, weighing all the odds and considering all the ramifications. No one could ever accuse Benjamin Franklin of being rash and emotional, although that certainly never stopped John Adams. And then there was his son William. How could Ben be rational here? We fathers all know the intense feelings of love, devotion, and loyalty that come with being a father. William had betrayed his father in the deepest, darkest recesses of his heart. He had not only chosen a different side, he had actively fought to defeat the Americans and resorted to terror and vengeance to win his cause. If William had won the day, the first man hanged, the first man to lose all his earthly possessions would have been his father, Benjamin Franklin. How could Ben forgive that? But I will always wonder, did he? The rational mind of Benjamin Franklin could understand his son's reason, if not his actions. William had been brought up to respect the empire. He had served in its army. He had held various positions in its government, including, of course, the governor of New Jersey. Benjamin knew that throughout his son's life he had taught him to respect authority, to look for compromise, to ignore the baser instincts, and use the rational mind to make decisions that were best for all. But there also could be no doubt that he loved his son. The two of them spent almost every moment together in William's youth. As a bastard, William had no real mother figure to look up to, so Benjamin filled that role in as many ways as he could. They traveled together, they worked together, and Benjamin taught him science, mathematics, law, and most importantly, morality. Someday, Benjamin must have felt, his son would take over his legacy, and the Franklin name would live forever. Well, the Franklin name would live forever, but not because of his son. Despite him, Ben still had his beloved daughter, Sarah. She was the light of his life, his ardent defender, ally, and confidant. Unlike her elder brother, Sarah had never wavered. She had remained loyal to him and to America, doing relief work, hosting the Ladies' Association of Philadelphia to aid the soldiers, and even hosting his political meetings after the war. Sarah had been every bit the loyal daughter and hero of the Revolution. And that, of course, must have made the betrayal of William all the more painful. In that last meeting, as Benjamin Franklin reflected on his legacy, he must have known that his own name would live on. For as long as the United States was in existence, He knew his role in shaping her would not be forgotten. But as a father, how did he feel? We all have the desire to see our children happy. We all have at least some ego that wants to see our children follow in our footsteps, to honor our memory, if not in practice, at least in character. How then did Benjamin feel? Was he hit with the deepest despair only a father could feel for a child? He must have. He did. Their meeting did not go well. They did not exchange pleasantries or let bygones be bygones. There is no evidence whatsoever in any letters, papers, or diaries that Benjamin and his son ever made amends, or that Benjamin ever forgave him. Indeed, the story was so tragic that in our admiration for Benjamin, we have erased William from the history, as Benjamin tried to do in his heart. In schoolbooks, in paintings of kites, and lightning, in every aspect of the everyday culture, William's name is almost impossible to find. Yes, indeed, Benjamin's name would live on, but no one in the entire world, American or Englishman, would ever remember his son, the most infamous loyalist of them all, William Franklin. Would any father today trade the worldwide fame and fortune of Benjamin Franklin for his personal pain? On this Father's Day, I think not. Enjoy your day, dads. Count your blessings and give your kids an extra hug today. Thanks for listening. I'm Alan N.K.